Teams that were counted out this time last split are at the top of the table. See if they can defend against last year's playoff hopefuls. Fans are roaring for this first place match that will start the day. We'll see if Doublelift and the rest of the Team Liquid can keep up with Aframu and 100 Thieves, who seek revenge against the NALCS champions. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the NALCS Countdown, where for 30 minutes we pit the history of...
Yeah, you gotta make it dramatic to get to the stage.
You gotta make it dramatic, man.
Doesn't need to be there right now.
All right, well, as we take a look at the history of the old teams versus the future of the new, and preview the day's matches until the timer reaches 0 and we jump into Champion Select. One piece of business, though, before we continue. Last week, we reported that Pobelter grabbed his 1,000th kill in his game versus Clutch. Stats have confirmed that it was actually his 1,001st kill, meaning he got his 1,000th kill versus Golden Guardians.
Impact making sure he's got the damage on that one as Mickey's going to be very low now as well. The barrels come out. The Zonias is down, but it will not be enough as Mickey goes the same way as his teammate.
So, special shout out to Reddit user LW94, who identified this error by literally listing every kill Pobelter had throughout his career.
That's
very impressive.
Yeah, a little crazy potentially too, but very.
I like the eagle-eyed look, though.
Yeah, I'm glad we have fans who are willing to keep all this kept track of.
Yeah, call us on that stuff. Please do. All right, starting the weekend, though, with a look at the standings, we see that Team Liquid and 100 Thieves are tied for first. That is until Game 1 against one another today. Woo. Below them are Echo Fox and FlyQuest at third with Cloud9, Counterlogic Gaming, Golden Guardians, and TSM, all sharing sixth at 5 and 7. Still a very tight race. This split has been very strange since the most successful teams, the three most successful teams in NALCS history, TSM, C9, and CLG, have a combined record of 15 and 21, while the three worst teams from last split, FlyQuest, Optic, and Golden Guardians, are sitting at 18 and 18. What's going on?
Yeah, it's been so strange watching this split of the LCS, and I can imagine for a lot of the fans as well, because so many people identify as TSM fans or C9 fans or COG fans, and then to have all of those fan bases look up after 6 weeks and see the team has a losing record. C9 hasn't even had some of their most popular players starting most of these games. TSM doesn't have Doublelift on that team anymore, right? So all of these teams are really not only struggling to get wins, but I feel like also just struggling to keep that identity, because at least TSM, for instance, always identified themselves as winners. So when that's gone, the NALCS actually feels a lot different.
Yeah, and the teams that have kind of risen above them that we're talking about, the three last place teams from last split, it's crazy that they've done this, because we've interviewed a lot of them on the desk and after the games, and they talk about how they formed their own little scrim pocket group potentially, and that they found a meta work better than what the other former top teams were doing. But I think that's selling themselves a little short, because we've had kind of that scrim elitism that people kind of joke about between the top teams forever. Like, C9 and TSM have always been scrim buddies since the dawn of their two organizations. And so, like, this is not a new phenomenon of, like, the lower tier teams not getting to scrim the upper tier teams. And no other group of lower tier teams have ever usurped, you know, the higher teams. And so this is something where they're clearly doing more than just like, well, we figured out one or two good picks, or we had a slightly better read on the meta. Like, all three would not rise up if they were not legitimately doing some things correctly.
Yeah, and to be fair, we still have 100 Thieves and Team Liquid at the top of the standings, number one, the Spring Split finalists, so there are still teams that are able to find that level of consistency. But the three teams last place of the Spring Split that are now with a combined record greater than the three most successful teams of all time deserves a lot of praise for the players on those teams, but also to the organizations, because for so long, the TSMs and the C9s were just the best orgs. Right? They consistently got the best players. When they needed to make changes, they'd pivot at the right time and stay successful. And now, I think franchising does have something to do with this. The quality of the organization and the investment and the money that they're able to put in is just so much higher that it is becoming much more difficult for the C9s and the TSMs to differentiate themselves from the pack of teams that we have. And I think that's part of why we're seeing the schedule compression, but specifically for the teams that struggle in the spring, that quick turnaround is hard.
Yeah, like the coasts are gone, the teammates are gone, the Marns are gone. Like these teams that are coming in and taking their places, or did take their places, are legitimately powerful organizations with big brains, brands, and money behind them.
I do want to kind of get into, though, like, what does this mean for the league? Because I think for, as you mentioned, Jad, three of our most popular organizations are losing currently. So outside of just, you know, why is the change happening, which we maybe identify as a little bit of this scrim elitism, but with the new franchising and more resources, these teams can ramp themselves up. What does it mean for the NALCS that our popular orgs aren't performing well?
I mean, so every sports league has this happening.
Right.
For a while in the NBA, when the Lakers and the Celtics weren't playing in the finals or were good teams, the ratings were down. Recently, the Golden State Warriors and the Cleveland Cavaliers played 4 times in a row in the finals, and at least for the first 3 years, it was very exciting, right? So you hope that a new team emerges as the dominant team because people do like rooting for winners. And part of that could also be at international events. So there is a chance that this is a breath of fresh air because we're so used to seeing TSM going to Worlds with large expectations because they dominated the North American LCS, and then failing to make it out of group stage. So giving someone else a chance has the potential to give a bit of fresh air.
But Mark, do you want to see new teams come in and be successful by virtue of the previously good teams playing poorly? Or do you want to see them actually come in and just be better, right? Like, what's the better way to see standings go topsy-turvy?
Well, because I was going to say, like, I agree with what Jeff's saying in principle, but I think what's happened in the NALCS is still a little bit of a weird feeling compared to even staying within our own esport in the Korean scene in the LCK, where, yes, SKT... spoilers, they missed playoffs for the first time since Faker has joined the team, I believe. And so that's mind-blowing. But it comes with KT still being at the top. Gen G is still really good.
Kingzone's up there.
Kingzone's up there. So you still have a lot of the quote-unquote old guard. And Griffin, this group of rookies, comes in and starts smashing everyone and completely turns the league upside down. And in the NALCS, even though we still have 100 Thieves and TL at the top, it doesn't quite feel like we have completely new players, even if it's some new orgs. And a lot of the old orgs that dropped off, a lot of them did it at the same time, where it wasn't just SKT, it wasn't just TSM. It's like C9 struggling down there, CLG struggling down there. So I think as a fan of the LCS, it's not quite as exciting as here's one new team that I'm going to put my faith in.
Exactly. If you're trying to actually script a league, you want a certain amount of turnover.
Right.
You want some of the top teams to suck occasionally.
Yeah.
But you want some consistency up top. So I really want one of those 3 old guard teams to make a run.
Okay.
Just one, please. I don't want all of them to continue to be a losing record.
And by the same token, we don't want the new orgs to just pick up wins by virtue of the old guard, dropping games or not looking great. You want them to actually come in and impress and push the limits of the rest of the teams. If we look at our schedule, though, presented by Jersey Mike Subs, we'll see a battle for first place between 100 Thieves and Team Liquid to kick off the day, with Cloud9 challenging Clutch Gaming in Game 2. We've got TSM versus Golden Guardians to close out the day. Freak, Wild Turtle, and JJ will be on the NALCS Lounge tomorrow, where they'll cast Echo Fox versus TSM on Riot Games 2. If you're in need of a sub above, order online at jerseymikes.com, where using the promo code JMNALCS guarantees you some in-game rewards with the added chance of getting a free trip to the Oracle Arena for the summer final. Now, Freak and Azael are about to share their thoughts on Game 1. Before they do, Prawley thinks in facing another first-place team, you have to think about how Team Liquid wants to improve.
I definitely have to think about their strengths and weaknesses and kind of guess what they're going to be focusing on to improve. Is this a situation where they're going to leave bot lane to their own devices and focus elsewhere, or are they going to try to pick up their bot lane? So it's a bit of a guess game to see where they're going to focus their play this weekend. So it's definitely been on my radar, and we'll see what we can do against it. Funneling definitely nerfed us. And the 2-0 last weekend was pretty nice, but I think our wins were not convincing enough for me. So I wouldn't say we're completely adapted to playing without funnel completely. And we'll have to, maybe see this weekend if we can prove that we're ready.
Well, thank you very much, Prawley. And as we get ready for the battle over first place, a breakdown or a break point for this matchup could very well be in the top. And we're talking about Someday versus Impact.
Yeah, I mean, these are 2 of the best players in the league. These guys have been around for a long time, a lot of history behind both of these names, and really have been top performers for quite some time. In the past, it always felt like Impact was getting the better of Someday in the NALCS, though 3-0 in the finals in Spring Split. But this time around, feels like Someday really has the upper hand.
Absolutely agree. So we can start with what Spring Split looked like. Impact on your left, Someday on your right. Better KDA, better KP, 6-5 in solo kills, higher damage per gold. I mean, everything basically was big. And while taking less resource, you can see that 22 versus 26 of CS share in the mid game. But you look at the summer split here, and it gets a whole lot different. In the summer split, massive KDA bump for Someday. Solo kills now 10 on Someday's side to the 1 for Impact.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, one of the things that really stands out here to me is the forward percentage and the solo kills, as you pointed out. This is something where he is being able to create so much pressure for his team. He is doing such a good job for the 100 Thieves in that he is drawing pressure up there. When his jungler is coming up and helping him, he's able to snowball games and really has just been incredibly impressive this summer split, and that's why he's many people's MVP candidate.
Yeah, he's one of my front runners absolutely as well. So ahead of Team Liquid's matchup, we spoke to Coach Kane, who shared with Avli how they plan to use 2 coaches on stage today.
Thanks, guys. Just spoke with the new Team Liquid coaching duo, Kane and Dodo, asking them a little bit about their coaching dynamic on stage today. They said that Kane is mainly going to be taking care of all the picks and bans, while Dodo's going to pick up anything that he may have missed and throw in some extra ideas along the way. As for their battle for first place today against 100 Thieves, they aren't too worried. Kane said that he acknowledges that they're an okay team. They got some good macro, they got some strong players, but he knows that Liquid is just better. Back to you guys.
Well, he just knows that Liquid is better, so
That feels good as a coach.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know if you need 2 coaches if you just know you're better. But with 18 minutes to go for that game 1, I want to get you guys' win conditions for Team Liquid versus 100 Thieves, starting with you, Jat, right. Team Liquid.
So it's kind of repetitive when I talk about Team Liquid win conditions. I need to find different variations of ways of saying play around bot lane. But this one would be to pick a Stormrazor ADC or Marksman for Doublelift. And that specifically, make sure it has an earlier spike. So this could be a Blade of the Rune King Varus as well, but this is just for the verbiage. You don't want to be a late game AD carry that allows Cody Sun and Aftermer to get priority down bottom. Because if you're going to win through Doublelift, and you want to attack 100 Thieves where they're weak, which is in the early game.
All right, Mark, what's the response?
I got to say, your red side, counter pick top. You heard them talking about it at the casters check-in. They were all talking about the top lane. Very important to get Impact in the favorable matchup, or excuse me, Someday in a favorable matchup, because I think he can win that matchup very well. And then pressure the bot lane. We're talking about how important Doublelift is. All their wins feel like when they get ahead, and when they lose quickly, because they have the fastest game time in the league, it's when Doublelift gets smashed. So counterpick for top, and then send your actual in-game resources to the bot lane.
All right, so leave top lane on an island, but just set Someday up to make plays individually. We're going to see a lot of focus in the bot lane, hopefully. We're stepping away. When we return, I get these guys' thoughts on the new coaching changes, and we check in on the player of the game leaderboards. As we go to break, though, let's listen into this week's mic check, which follows the back-and-forth bout between Cloud9 and Echo Fox.
Silly, when I was in Emerald, it was like 33 and 3.
Yeah, you only lost 3 total. It's pretty sad that you just didn't make Worlds, though.
Okay, we see him. Yeah, look for the tower. Look for the tower. Okay. I'm on the tower. Here we go. Let's away from the tower.
Nice stun. Yeah. We're gonna fight top. We're fighting top.
We can definitely one. At least a flash.
Orianna will move first.
After this wave, we can just reset.
Orianna is here now. Orianna can be top in 10 seconds. We got it. I'm not coming. I'm gonna carry this game.
Can we hit Josh? I'm hitting Josh.
Yeah, you can.
We never ever lose to VODS.
Yeah. I mean, we can start to dive. No? Yeah, we can start to dive here.
Okay. Tower.
I will never be able to move.
I'm good.
I'm down. Yes, no stopwatch here.
I can arrow.
Oh, nice stun. Okay.
Go.
Clean.
I'm just saying what I can do.
You're poppy.
And then you do it.
Do it.
That's pretty slow.
Actually, can you just finish, no?
Okay.
It's
if you think so. They still have Ori ulti, though.
Wait, actually, we have to fight, no?
We have Ori, no flash. We should go Ori.
Finish.
I have no mana. Just leave. Just leave after.
No, we're fine. Just finish. I'm dead, but...
Oh, he's Zonya's my ult.
Look. We can fight them.
Can we pick anyone else?
No. There's something on mid. Can we go? Yeah. We can look long, maybe? Look at long.
Oh, I'm looking. I'm gonna get one shot.
Look Smoothie.
Smoothie's dead. Lost is 1 HP.
Look at me. Okay,
I'm on him too. I'm running. We can Baron off this.
Just a bit behind us. Yeah, I'm not here. Careful.
Right here.
Look, Monday. He's dead. I'm going over. Yeah, I'm coming too.
Can't help you.
Okay. Look who. He's stunned.
Oh,
you got him? He's dead. Nice. I'm fine. I'm Zonya's. I'm okay.
Oh, I missed.
I missed you. Help us in the back. No.
I missed.
Top. We can end.
Good boys.
Whoa, 2 on weak, boys. Yeah.
Welcome back to the NALCS Countdown, where we're narrowing in on that battle for first place. As we move our way towards that, Week 7, an announcement came out that the NALCS teams now have the option to add a strategic coach to picks and bans. This is an NA-only pilot program, and to get all the details on this decision, check out the Quick Notes article available on lolesports.com. Now, adding another voice to picks and bans raised a lot of questions, so we decided to conduct an experiment to see how it would play out.
All right, they have Mundo.
Yeah, let's go with Darius here, Joel.
All right, got it.
Well, no, Joel, do not listen to Mark. It's Gangplank here. We talked about this before.
Yeah, we also talked about how Joel has trash mechanics, and we need to pick up some easy lane matchups like that Darius
I
and
know we
Mundo.
had a good week of
Mark,
practice, guys.
Are you trying to make a hero play right now?
No, I'm trying to get Joel through the laning phase.
When we talked about who would have final say on stage, what did we say?
I lied to you, so
We said it was me.
I'm the one that's going to make the right call.
I'm the one playing.
Do you even understand how to draft?
Yeah, I don't have to give my players good matchup.
What?
Why did you pick
Rammus?
Down the same. Sorry. I mean, messed up. Sorry.
I'm blaming you, Mark. You.
I'm leaving stage this way.
I think it went pretty well, right? Yeah.
I think there's
You guys didn't run into hiccups there?
Things you
It
can
could have
iron
gone
out,
worse,
maybe. Yeah.
right? Like we've seen Rammus picked before.
I mean, you just got, I mean, yeah.
It's an easy champ for Joel, because who knows
If mechanics are an issue, then you've got them covered there. Gonna have to see how that one plays out in games. Along with the questions around communication, maybe too many cooks in the kitchen in picks and bans, there's also the whole conversation around how coaching handshakes are going to go from this point onward. This is just twice as many hands on stage, Jad. How do you work this one out?
I've actually been thinking a lot about this, and I have a proposed handshake strategy. This is called the handshake shuffle. So your red side team, you make sure you get priority over the exit and reach for the back coach. That actually forces the front coach to walk around because he's not going to cross the handshake stream to get there. That way you also get to your player green room first.
Yeah, kind of like a pick and roll, I guess you could say, where you're trying to get the other guy to go the long way around so you can get the early exit off the stage. This looks really dumb to me.
What would you do, Mark?
Yeah, Mark. How would you solve
I would
this?
shake the hand in front of me and then turn and shake the hand on the other side.
Yeah,
but in all seriousness, there is some benefit that teams can actually get from this. This is why the teams requested it. There's some teams that need translation help on stage. There's also teams that actually have a team of coaches and analysts that make the plan to begin with, and sticking to the plan on stage with time constraints, adding another thinker up there can be really beneficial.
Yeah, I mean, like when I was coaching, there were a number of times where we would draft like a strategy, come up with a strategy the day before, put a lot of hours into that work, and then you mostly want to stick to it, assuming that you have prepared for all the scenarios, because ideally you've prepped for everything that they could do.
Right.
And there was one time, summer playoffs, 2015, we're up against TSM in the semis, and we had this strategy. We pretty much predicted what TSM was going to do, and we wanted to take the Azir in the first game, and we took Lulu, and I was very upset about that behind stage.
Because remember, you're basically the person who would be able to be the next guy on stage right now, because there was the head coach,
Peter was the head coach,
and you were the analyst.
Yeah, but we worked together hand in hand often to make the drafts, and so he saw something in the draft that he just kind of had a feeling that Lulu would have been better. I would have pushed for us to stay on target. Either way, he ended up taking the Lulu. We lost that game, lost the second game. Third game, we get the draft we wanted in game one, and we win. So I think sometimes having just that extra voice to help keep players and people focused, depending on what the interaction is between the two coaches, because Peter and I were very much working together on a lot of things.
And it's not uncommon that we hear from players following defeats and such that they say, well, the draft didn't go the way we had planned it. For whatever reason, when this pick came through, we lunged at this thing, or we completely forgot that this other pick was an option. And I guess the idea here is that, with two solid voices that both understand the plan, but maybe also fill roles of like, hey, I'm going to be the one who tries to remind us this was our game plan, this was our strategy coming in, and then I'm going to be the guy who looks for this changed. How does this change our plan? Where can we go from here? Should really bring some new stuff into the meta. At the same time, I'll be intrigued to see which teams don't elect to go for the two-coach strategy, because you're not required to by any means.
Yeah, and I think about half the teams are doing it here on week one. You actually do need to make sure you don't have too many cooks in the kitchen and you don't have Mark and Jat fights over Rammus on stage.
Right.
Because that could be clearly detrimental. There's already a little amount of time. The players also have a large amount of input depending on which team, and you may not want to add that next person.
And this is the right time to start experimenting if you do want to try and figure out your system for your specific team, because you need to get those figured out before you go into the best of fives for playoffs.
Yeah, and to be clear, it's still NA only. So if you qualify for Worlds, you go back to
one.
You go back to one coach.
Okay, well, there you have it. As we approach the end of the regular split, let's take a look at who's racking up the most player of the games. At the top, no surprise, we've been talking about this guy all split long. Someday, Doublelift, though, right there neck and neck with him. 2 first-place teams.
Yeah, I do like the fact that what feels like the top-performing players on the top 2 teams is reflected on the player of the game leaderboard. I think both Someday and Doublelift are in that MVP conversation. Player of the game does have MVP implications. Someday's been credited with almost keeping 100 Thieves afloat in a lot of these times, with switching junglers away. As they mentioned earlier on the caster desk, he has been absolutely smashing and creating so much pressure. You see 10 solo kills. And Doublelift is still right there. First place team, still having a huge impact.
Yeah, definitely nice to see that. And then after the initial 5, that's 5 out of 8 games that they have those player of the games for. On the flip side, I'm actually really impressed by Sven, who has 3, and they only have 5 wins. So he still has a pretty good number of those he's picking up. And on a team that's struggling, that doesn't seem to have much cohesion, he is still putting out great numbers.
He essentially got the same numbers as Doublelift.
Yeah, and he has the highest DPM in the league for marksman players, I believe. And he has done this in a position where he a lot of times does not have any advantages early on in the game and kind of goes even into late game. And while I know TSM has been struggling and there's been a lot of people who have been attacking players for how good they're doing, I think Sven in particular has continued to perform.
Yeah, it's interesting to me, of course. I mean, no surprise to see Doublelift and Someday there. I do think it's interesting to see Sven there. Of the Echo Fox players, though, most notably, Altec is the one that's sitting atop the leaderboards of POGs. Granted, they've done a lot of roster swaps, so just by virtue of number of games played for each guy, they're going to have a harder time getting there. But it's going to be interesting to see how it shakes out come the end of the split. But since they dominated predictions last week, we're going to hear from the fans once more on who they believe will win today's games.
I think that 100 Thieves is going to win because they've seemed like the more consistent team of the 2. Liquid seems strong when they're strong, but they're kind of been all over the place recently.
Clutch Gaming went 0-2 last week, but they did have 3 people benched. I'm pretty sure they can pull it off and go back on the top, even though they're last place right now.
I think Echo Fox is going to take this one definitely, also because Foxes are sly and they counter logic, so.
I think I'm going to give the win to Optic here. FlyQuest has been looking great, especially with JJ in the bot lane, but I don't know. I think that they're on a huge motivation streak and that they can do it.
Gonna go with Golden Guardians. Straight up Golden Guardians.
All right, there you have it from the fans. Now it's time to see where you two disagree.
Looks like a lot of places, actually.
Well, with them, perhaps.
Yeah.
With each other, not so much. Only game 1 of the day, the battle for first place. You guys elected. Jat sticking with the Spring Split champions. Mark thinks they're going to get revenge. And then the fans differ with you guys both in games 2 and games 5.
Yeah, today's the day I get 5 wins.
Is it
last time this happened was Spring Split.
Oh, wow. Oh, my God.
I mean, you haven't had any 5-win days this
I haven't been keeping track.
either.
Yeah, the fans did.
I just see this number and I want that number to be better. But I think the fans took some surprising ones here. The Clutch Gaming over C9 is very interesting to me.
Yeah. Can you guys justify that? We do know that they announced they're going back to their starting roster from before last week. So the academy players out. We got the LCS players come back in, as well as a coaching shift. So there's all kinds of stuff going on with that squad.
There's a chance the Clutch Gaming team is stronger with Hakuho back. I mean, I feel like that roster was better than the Piglet bot lane they had in there last week. And even though Cloud9's on a tear, the last time they're on a tear, they dropped a game to Optic, right? They can fall out at kind of any second. So as we've seen the NALCS this split, so many of these games are you make your best guess based on the analysis, and then you complain that the team didn't play the way you wanted them to.
And Mark, tied to our earlier conversation about the old guard versus the new, you both voted for TSM, but the fans going for Golden Guardians here. I mean, win rate.
I really thought Jat was going to go with TSM, or excuse me, Golden Guardians, because even in their 2 losses last week, they had huge leads both times, and I thought they looked pretty good. TSM has blue side here, and we're talking about how many games in a row Golden Guardians found those wins on blue side, so I think it's a little more difficult for them, and I think with some of the stuff that's come out of TSM recently, TSM Legends, like you can feel that TSM is kind of at this like snapping point where they finally have to really fix their problems, and if they're going to do it, this is the game to do it, so I'm putting some faith in all those guys to figure it out this game.
All right, well, we'll keep our eyes on games 2 and 5, but first, we got that battle for first place between Team Liquid and 100 Thieves. As we go to the battle arena, Cody's son talks about the pressure that comes with facing Doublelift.
Whenever I watch like competitive NALCS, I always saw Doublelift like doing really well and always being like first place for NA AD carries. And as a rookie, especially in my first first split, right, I was like ranked like top 10. So I looked at everyone to try to improve and looked at my own game to try to improve. And it does feel like, for me at least, that every time I play against them, you know, over months and over like more than a year now, I always feel like I get a little bit closer to beating him every time.
Well, thank you very much, Cody Sun, for your thoughts on the bot lane matchup. Welcome to the Battle Arena. We are almost ready to go for our very first match of the day. The battle over first place between 100 Thieves on your screen right now and Team Liquid, the reigning champions of North America. Zale, I'm excited. How are you?
I'm very excited for this one. I think it's going to be a close game, and it feels like these two teams are starting to pull away from the rest of the pack. You know, we had talked so much about all the parity in the league, but these guys are at the top of the table, and they are going to be competing